How's it going, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Average Joe, the series where I'll be taking a look at a vehicle and telling you whether or not I believe it's worth the average player's time, or in this case, their money. On today's episode, we're going to be looking at the Merkava Mk.2D, a rank 6, 9.7 battle rating premium Israeli MBT. With all that out of the way, let's jump right into what this vehicle is capable of, starting with the weaponry. Starting off with your primary weapon, you're going to be armed with a 105mm cannon, where your main round is going to be pretty good, honestly. It's got pretty good pen, pretty good post-pen damage. Really, the only thing that it's kind of lacking in is reload rate. Overall, this gun's reload rate being a base of 8.71 seconds does make it slower than both most Western MBTs and all Eastern MBTs that you're going to see, other than like the 292. So just keep that in mind. Most people will out-reload you. Now, this gun does have something that Eastern MBTs can only dream of, and that is 8 degrees of gun depression and 20 degrees of gun elevation. It's pretty nice, it's not the best, but it is gonna keep you alive, and it's gonna let you get shots that a lot of Eastern MBTs are not gonna get. Really, the only other thing of note when it comes down to your primary weapon is actually gonna be your ammo stowage. First off, your first stage ammo rack is going to be pretty small. It's only 6 rounds. However, all of your ammo is going to be surrounded by rolled homogeneous armor, which makes it to where Spall basically never sets off your ammo. Which, if people know where to aim a dart, it's not gonna matter, but it's still something that will keep you a little bit more survivable. Moving on to secondary weapons, you're going to be armed with a weird amount of machine guns for this battle rating, actually. You're going to get 4 total, 3 7.62, 1 50 cal. Now, one of the 7.62s and the 50 cal are both coax, which is kind of unfortunate, but because you have 20 degrees of gun elevation, it's really not going to negatively affect you that much. But 2 of the 7.62s will be roof mounted, which, yeah, I'd prefer having the 50 cal be roof mounted, but the 7.62s being roof mounted at least makes them usable. Moving on to vehicle utility, you're going to be armed with Gen 1 thermals. They aren't the greatest, but I mean, they'll help you spot targets at least. With that, you'll obviously get a laser rangefinder and a laser warning system, which has actually come in handy a few times for me in this thing. With that, you're also going to be armed with 42 smoke grenades that you will fire in sets of 3, and 3 uses of ESS. Next up, let's talk about mobility, because this is really the main place where the Merkava is lacking. Now, you're not the slowest vehicle in the game by any means, however, you are slower than nearly every MBT that will be in your lobbies. You're slower than T-72s, and your acceleration isn't even the best either by any means. You do have an okay reverse speed when compared to other tanks like T-72s and ZTZs, but it's still just kinda not that great either. Overall, just don't rely on the mobility of this vehicle to really carry you to anything. Just don't. Next up, let's talk about survivability, because this is where the Merkava really shines. It's very survivable, all things considered. Now, its armor isn't going to block much in the way of darts. In fact, it will really only block darts that are fired at really bad angles. However, it will block basically every single heat projectile that's fired at you, which is great because heat is still relatively common at this battle rating. Now, the main thing that makes the Merkava so survivable is actually what makes it, in my opinion, not that fun to play in a lot of cases, and that is the rear-mounted turret. Now, the rear-mounted turret means that all of the modules of the vehicle can be mounted in the front. Now, this is enough to actually keep you alive whenever somebody shoots you in the front almost every time in my experience. I have yet to get one shot in this thing, because if somebody shoots me from the front, the dart typically gets eaten up by the engine block and transmission or the fuel tank. And even when they shoot the rear half of the vehicle, there's so much dead space there that if they don't direct hit the ammo, they usually don't do any damage. And that's another thing. Because the ammo rack on this vehicle is surrounded by rolled homogeneous armor, it is very rare that unless you are direct hit by a dart, that it will do any damage to the ammo. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is the fact that you have a rear-mounted turret. Now, I know I mentioned it earlier, but this is really something that I don't like personally. And the reason being is because if you want to shoot somebody that is around a corner from you, you gotta go all the way around that corner, or you have to reverse around it. Neither of those are ideal. So yeah, I'm just not a fan of the rear-mounted turret. You might be. If so, that's great. If not, you're probably like me and you've probably been killed one too many times using vehicles with rear-mounted turrets. So yeah, I don't like it. Keep in mind that if you're trying to round a corner, it's pretty likely you're gonna get shot in the process. Now, normally this is the part where I would talk about whether or not I believe the vehicle is worth it. However, I messed up. If you've seen the Vidar video, you know that I wasn't able to get that video done in time for the sale. and because of that, I couldn't get this one done in time for the sale. The difference is, the Merkava Mk.2D is no longer in the store at all. It will likely come back during Golden Eagle events for it, but at least right now, it's not available. So, how can I really tell you if it's worth it? When it comes back in the future, it will probably be somewhere around 9,000 Golden Eagles. Now, whether or not you believe a Rank 6 Premium is worth that much is completely up to you. But when I compare 9,000 Golden Eagles to instead getting the newer Premium Merkava when that eventually becomes eligible for sales, I would rather get that. If you think that this vehicle is worth 9,000 Golden Eagles when it comes back around, go for it. It's a fun vehicle, I enjoyed it overall. However, if you're getting it just to grind, I would say wait until I don't remember its name, but whatever it is, I'll put it on screen. I'd wait until that's eligible for a sale, and then during that sale, buy that. With all that out of the way, I'd like to thank you all for watching. Please let me know in the comments if there's any other vehicles you'd like to see in the future. Have a good one.